106.3 FM, The Source.
Thank you for tuning in. Just about 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Wow, where did the morning go, Robin?
I know. It's just disappearing.
Sometimes the news is just something you don't want to listen to at all. You want to get something more distracting. Although the storyline in Lullaby Road, seems kind of nice. Driving through Utah. What else? What could be bad about that?
Exactly.
James Anderson has been on the air with us before, and he's on again with his new book called Lullaby Road, and I can't wait to hear about this one. What was the other one he had on, Robin? Was it The Never Open Desert Diner?
Yes.
I think
yes,
James is
really
an
good.
essayist, a reviewer, a contributor to the Bloomsbury Review, New Letters, Solstice magazine, which only comes out twice a year, whatever. I'm just making up. And he's a poet. Lullaby Road is a crime novel, though, so let's find out about this one. James Anderson, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Yeah, where are you? Are you in Utah?
Right now, I'm in Portland, Oregon. But I have to tell you, the interview that I did with you guys 3 years ago, I told my publicist that was the most fun I had.
Oh,
you
nice.
guys, no, I think we spent a whole lot of time laughing, so your audience was listening to us laugh a lot. But it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, well, thank you. Obviously, it was fun for us, too, if we were laughing through the whole thing. Hopefully, it was fun. So how does this happen? How does a book come out of a person? I'm just always curious. I mean, I'm looking at something tangible, but yet words are really intangible.
That's a great question, and it's a difficult one to answer. I instead of going to high school, I really, I worked and I stayed up nights, and I finished my first novel when I was 16. And I really can't tell you, except I'd like to quote Larry McMurtry, who Pulitzer Prize winner, who when asked this question says, well, excuse me, says, I just like to make stuff up. So there you go.
All right. So if I were going to try to have an escape through my own thoughts, and to fortify those thoughts, I was going to put them in writing, because I think if I would just sit thinking, I wouldn't quite make it. But if I was putting them in words, it might start to gel. So if I'm going to just have a nice, gentle ride down an open highway in Utah, that sounds pretty good, but it doesn't make for a book. So what happens? I mean, you're writing about this this drive, and you say, well, what could happen now that make it exciting, right?
Well, that's true. You go, well, what happens next? And, some people work from an outline, and I just sort of get in the cab next to Ben Jones, the protagonist, the truck driver. Excuse me. And then I just write down what I see and feel and what happens.
Are you okay? You got the flu?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, I'm getting over the flu. But
okay.
So then you're out there in the desert, and you've got all these weird characters, and stuff happens. And I think some of the best. There's a scene in the first book which a number of people said was so surprising. And what had happened was I'd written my character Ben Jones into a bathroom, and something had to happen, and I invented something on the spot, which everybody who's read the book went, "Oh my God, I never saw that coming."
And you didn't either, right? I mean, you had to have something happen. You can't just be in the bathroom. That doesn't make for a good book.
Yeah, and I could have just thrown it all away. But I just said, well, something has to happen, and something did.
So do you walk around like for days thinking, oh my gosh, what can happen? What can happen? And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's the idea. Does that happen? You know
what? It usually, sometimes it happens that way, but usually when I'm writing, I'm there. And, I tell my readers, excuse me, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, everything. And so I'm sort of there, and I just describe what I see.
And Ben doesn't quite realize it, but he is on a mission. He thought that he would be alone, but turns out that he's not, and this will keep his himself from being distracted to what once was in his life with his relationship.
Oh, gee, Robin, you're so right. And it starts off with somebody abandons a little child at a truck stop out in the middle of the desert, and it's snowing and it's cold, and Ben feels he has to take the child with him to protect the child. And, it is a distraction. So, but Ben had a rough childhood, and he sort of, excuse me, identifies with the child.
Oh, wow. So in the course of the book, there was one paragraph I wanted to read. You a religious man, George? He laughed and shook his head. No, not really. At my age, I think about it more. My guess is I'll be a true believer about 1 minute before I take my last breath.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people that's true for, right? I wonder how many people just, you hear all this preaching and you say, I believe it, but I like the next line, which says, until then, I'll go on believing in desert sunsets and silence. It's kind of like, well, those things I can relate to, those things I can see and feel and experience.
Well, there's some people, that say, well, gee, do you ever think about God? And the answer is, well, does a fish think about water? You think about water about the minute you don't have it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That was good.
And your book, you also provide comedic relief. I mean, Phyllis, the character, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah. One of the best reviews was actually in the Mormon newspaper, and they said that there were lines in this one that would make even Joseph Smith chuckle. Yeah. And I thought, well, now that's something, because for those of us that know what Joseph Smith looked like, stern and white beard, if something I wrote can make Joseph Smith chuckle, well, then I've succeeded.
Well, you have something in common with me. Yeah, when we get guys in here sometimes that don't look like they're ever going to laugh ever, and I always tell Robin I'm going to see if I can get this guy to laugh in the course of the interview. And I don't always succeed, but we did have a rabbi one time that almost fell over, and I thought, whoa, never thought I could get him to laugh. So tell me about. Give us the thumbnail sketch of the story, or the movie trailer version of the story.
Well, Ben is a truck driver in Utah, and he drives just a 100-mile stretch out to the isolated desert along this Highway 117, and he brings stuff to desert rats and eccentrics and exiles and so on, and he picks up this little child, and it's snowing, and then he goes about his deliveries, and little by little you find out that the child is in jeopardy, and by virtue of taking the child with him, there are bad people after the child, that Ben is in fact in jeopardy as well. So how that all plays out, is the story. And it really, it involves children, little children as well as us adult children, and our relationships to the world as parents and sons and daughters and so on. So, but, you're talking about humor. I was just thinking, one of the lines that I'm hearing a lot about in fan mail and whatnot is State Trooper asked Ben if he's seen any suspicious vehicles, and he says, yeah, as a matter of fact, I have. He said, I saw a Prius with a gun rack. So,
that's funny.
I love that.
The title makes sense. So you have a little child, Lullaby Road. It just makes sense, right? It's a great title.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but it also has a double meaning, though.
Yeah. And there are a lot of different meanings. And I think you have a good title when, as you read the book, and every time you start reading and so on, you get kind of a new sense of what the title means.
Exactly.
So it deepens and changes a little bit. So. Yeah, so this has been a lot of fun. I didn't publish my first book until I was 62. So, this is all exciting and fun for me to get to talk to you guys again.
And you wrote your first novel at 16. Wow, what did you do between 16 and 62?
Boy, isn't that a good question. I worked. I worked as a commercial fisherman. I worked as a logger. I worked in book publishing. I did all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
If you told me all of that and more, we might see a puzzle and how the pieces came together, because book publishing and fishermen, they don't seem to go together, but but somehow they do. It's like two pieces of puzzle on opposite ends of the puzzle, right? This lamppost doesn't look anything like that horse.
Well, the thing is that I people ask me if I do any research, because I get a lot of praise about my characters, and I go, no, I don't have to do any research. These are my people. I grew up with hardworking guys.
Yeah.
Back in the day where your exit interview was a kick in the ass. So yeah. So these are the people that I know and I care about and I grew up with.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of what makes you a good author, is that you have had life experiences that the guy who went straight to college and then to law school doesn't have exactly that kind of background. So it's characters that you are filled with, and those characters find their way into your books. I think that makes it for you.
Thank you,
James. I always wish we had a longer interview. Thank you for being on the show with us. I have a copy of the book Lullaby Road. Call me if you would like the copy that was sent to us. I found it on Amazon. Do you have a website?
I do, JamesAndersonAuthor.com, and the book is available everywhere, coast to coast.
Very good. James, good to hear from you again. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Nice talking to you again.
You too. We'll be right back. Hello, may I speak to Ron DeMott, please?
Speaking.
Ron, this is Larry Whitler at WOCA, and your name was picked to win 2 tickets to the Daytona 500 this Sunday.
That is cool.